The Cathedral of Sovana, located on the western edge of the village on a slight hill. The church was built in the Romanesque era through the initiative of the Aldobrandeschi family, the feudal lords of the time in southern Tuscany. The decline of the Aldobrandeschi family and the resulting impoverishment of Sovana prevented the cathedral in the following centuries of large-scale renovation work. It is thanks to this fact that the church has retained its purely medieval character up to this day. And this is precisely what gives this cathedral its special charisma. Since no documents from the construction period have survived, the individual construction phases cannot be precisely dated. However, it seems that the construction of this cathedral began in the 11th century under Pope Gregory VII, the most famous member of the Aldobrandeschi family, who was born here in Sovana. A three-nave church building was erected with a single nave transept, an apse, and a hemispherical dome, which is encased on the outside by an octagonal lantern. The arches of the ribbed vault rest on extensions of the cross-shaped columns, which are characterized by their two-colored design and the decorated capitals. The main nave is separated from the aisles by round arches, which are typical for the Romanesque era, while the vaulted ceiling has pointed arches, which are typical of the Gothic era. So it turns out that the construction of this cathedral falls in a transition phase from Romanesque to Gothic. Interestingly, the Gothic pointed arches of the ceiling vault are not in one line. The arch separating the nave from the transept is double. The upper one is the older arch, while the lower one was added later for static reasons to support the upper one. During a recent restoration, openings were made in order to reveal the older support pillars. The upper story is decorated with a simple cornice and has a number of single arched windows, of which those on the north side are smaller and those on the south side are much larger and therefore let in much more light. This example also shows how the construction of this cathedral falls into the transition phase between the Romanesque era and the Gothic era, which places more emphasis on brightness in the building. The choir is located above the crypt, which has 5 aisles and is divided by short sturdy columns. In this crypt are kept the remains of Saint Mamilian, the patron saint of Sovana. From the outside, the apse is decorated with 4 pilaster strips with decorated half capitals. Only part of the curve shows a series of consoles that support the simple eaves. The single narrow arched window is delimited at the bottom by a decorated sill, which is supported by depictions of 2 human faces. In the mansionry there are also 2 reliefs with the image of a lion biting its tail. Soon after it was erected, the building showed static problems. This is why massive buttresses were added to the sides in the 14th century. At the same time, the bishop's palace was built on the west wall. The richly decorated portal on the north side was probably built at the same time. To design this portal, decorated panels were used that come from other architectural contexts. This is particularly evident in the tympanum, where the panels have been adapted to the curve. These reliefs date from the earliest Middle Ages and were arranged according to the following system. In the bottom row, the Longobarд knot. In the middle, vortex-like links, and above, floral motifs. In the middle of the tympanum, there is a Latin inscription which, translated into English, means "Born in the city of Siena, but appointed bishop in this city, Peter. As he devoted himself to this portal, so he devoted himself to the whole people." Unfortunately, it has not yet been possible to determine who this Bishop Peter was, probably a schismatic bishop. Particularly interesting are the decorations on the side door posts, which seem to be arranged according to the principle that sculptures that address negative aspects of human character are placed below, and sculptures that symbolize higher values are to be found in the middle or upper position. In the lower right corner there is a knight with a raised sword. In fact, it is a relief that symbolizes belligerence. At the same time, at the bottom left, a siren can be seen holding its fish tails spread. This type of siren is a common theme in Romanesque art, and it is commonly interpreted as a symbol of a vice. Above the siren there is a cross with 4 spirals and a human face. In the middle of the post you can see 2 peacocks at a drinking trough. This is an early Christian symbol of eternal life. Finally, in the arch above the tympanum, a human figure can be seen with arms raised. This portrayal is difficult to interpret, but it appears that it is a believer who is about to reach paradise. The other sculptures on the portal are also noteworthy. They are mostly woven of flowery medallions. One can notice especially the 2 lion heads made of dark travertine. There are also remarkable sculptures inside the cathedral. Numerous capitals are decorated with plant and animal motifs. These capitals have different stylistic levels. The capital of the second pillar on the left is of a particular interest. The individual scenes of this capital are sometimes difficult to interpret, and they do not form a thematic unit. However, starting at the southeast corner, the following scenes can be made out. The first scene is the handing over of the key from Christ to the Apostle Peter. This is followed by the broad-based scene of the expulsion from paradise. The snake on the apple tree can be seen approaching Eve. Eve already holds the apple in her hand and gives it to Adam. Adam holds his throat, and an angel puts a hand on his shoulder and drives him out of paradise. The following is as a representation of Moses dividing the Red Sea. The next scene is the prophet Daniel in the den of lions. Remarkable are the lions which lick the feet of the prophet as a sign of their devotion. The next scene with the sacrifice of Isaac is very interesting. A human face is depicted above the sacrificial scene. It is probably God the Father. The following is the depiction of Abraham in a sitting pose between his two wives, Agar with Ishmael and Sarah with Isaac. At the end of the narrative cycle, there are two scenes that are difficult to interpret. The penultimate one is probably the Gate of Jerusalem, while no interpretation has yet been proposed for the last scene.